artistic merit, not the cost of a necklace, although we have just seen best costume design, so that kind of contradicts that. And Boris has emailed us to ask whether Elliot Gould would say schmuck in that Ocean's 11 style.
Schmuck.
There you go. One happy customer. We'll win them over one at a time. Okay, well, obviously, best animated short. We're all delighted that Chub Chubs went home with that. I know we were.
You saw it.
Yeah, I did see it and I enjoyed it very much indeed. Best costume, Chicago winning there. Do you think that's another indication that it's going to be, it's going to dance away with most of the gongs this evening?
It certainly looks that way.
It does.
It could just be that so many people would like the musicals to come back and they just sort of ticked across the board. Then Chicago was a very strong film across the board, but there were many other. It's a hard choice. There's so many great costumes.
Well, so many of the categories this year, they seem to be so closely fought. We now have lying just ahead of us is Best Supporting Actress. I'm going to whiz through the names. Mm-hmm. Give me your opinions on these. I'll start with you, Linda. Kathy Bates.
She's always fantastic.
Julianne Moore.
That's going to be hard because she's in 2 categories.
Right. Queen Latifah for Chicago.
I love Queen Latifah. I thought it was great. African American, there's a little controversy there, so she does a great job.
Meryl Streep.
Oh, Meryl Streep, every performance after performance.
And Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Wow.
I think she's the one that most people are going to vote for
You think
tonight.
maybe Catherine Zeta-Jones another Chicago win? Elliot, what do you think from that list?
Well, I don't know. I mean, each one of them are so outstanding. I have no idea who's going to win, and I think it'll be an interesting indication if Catherine Zeta-Jones wins where the whole evening is going to go.
I'd love to see Kathy Bates take it for Bat Schmidt personally, but you can see how the voters could go for any of those. It is a very difficult one to call. Of course, Meryl Streep, this is her 13th nomination. We know that she hasn't won for 20 years. Last time she won was for Sophie's Choice, so that may well sway some thoughts.
Oh, she was great in adaptation.
Yeah, she was terrific. Okay, I'm going to take a second out here to say happy birthday to my mum, who's watching at home. I know it's an important night for any. I know you guys both knew it was her birthday and you wanted to join me in.
Happy birthday,
Of course.
Mom.
Happy birthday, Mom.
There you go. Not that we're wasting BBC money here, but it's just nice to spread a bit of love.
And also, I do want to say we do apologize for talking so much about the costumes and the jewelry, but it is
It's
part of
a lot of
the
people
night. We're
tuning
sorry.
just for that.
Well,
Don't be so grumpy.
But creatively, the filmmaking is extremely important, and we do
Let's
agree
go.
with that.
Back to the Oscars. Welcome back. I'm here with my guests Elliot Gould and Linda Blair, poised to dissect the proceedings so far. So if I may quote Sean Connery, the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress went to Catherine Zeta-Jones. Quite a mouthful for him now, I imagine. What do you think of that result, Elliot?
I thought it was so glamorous and spectacular for Sean Connery to give the award to Catherine Zeta-Jones. That was sort of magical.
It was, wasn't it? It was lovely. It's a long way from the perfect buds of May to getting an award from Sean Connery at the Kodak Theatre. That was, as we were saying earlier, a very closely fought category, no doubt about it. But it was lovely seeing them all. I mean, you could see the pride in Queen Latifah's face just to be in that.
Yes.
And that's what I was saying earlier. It really meant a lot for her, and I think that all filmmakers, for her to be in the category and recognized, and for Catherine to win. I think there's a lot of people who are very emotional, and it's going to prove that Chicago, I think, is going to sweep a lot of the awards tonight.
Are there other factors at work here when someone's nominated like this and when someone wins like this? For example, if you look at the people who were nominated against Catherine there, Julianne Moore, she's in another category tonight. Now, would that split the vote for her, do you think? Do you think people who vote for her as Best Actress would then not vote for her in Best Supporting, or do people tend to approach them as an individual decision?
Well, I can only talk for myself, but I don't think it would affect anyone's judgment. I thought her performance in The Hours was fabulous, and I understand that she's great in her leading actress category.
Let's talk, Linda, if we may, about the sentiment involved in it, whether or not people actually take that into account when they're voting. You were, of course, nominated when you were terribly young. You were 15, I believe, was that 14?
I was 15, yes.
Do you think that would normally count in your favour? Of course, you were unlucky enough to lose out to someone even younger than yourself, which is remarkable. But do you think those kind of factors are important to the people voting?
Well, yes and no, because then wouldn't certain people have a sentiment towards Meryl Streep?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, Kathy Bates. So it really is hard. I think many people just love Chicago. Catherine did a great job. I think it could have gone in any direction.
Yeah, it really could. Makeup there, we saw that go to the people responsible for Selma, Hayek's film Frida. Triumph for the unibrow, I believe. I'm sure the Gallagher brothers are sitting at home cheering. But it was once again, I thought, I was surprised that not that many films up for that category. I would have thought Lord of the Rings should
Maybe
have been.
Elliot knows more about this. I was surprised that Lord of the Rings wasn't up. I feel that it should have been, and I think
Well,
it possibly
I don't
could have
know how
won.
they would come to that. I know that the actors don't nominate anything but actors and films. So I think the makeup artists would do the nominating, and I'm somewhat astounded that there were only 2 nominations. But I'm really glad that Selma got it, especially for this part of her performance.
So just for that centimetre up there.
Yeah.
I would have thought, once again, to see the hours there, I would have thought, because of the schnoz that Nicole wore so boldly.
That was the other one I think that everybody thought would be up there as well.
A major omission.
It transformed her completely.
Just briefly, what do you think of the tone of the proceedings so far this evening?
It seems respectful. I felt with Catherine's win, I kind of felt being a part of her life, what she's carrying and having performed and the camera being right there with her. I believed her completely. I was glad she said hello to her people in Wales.
It was lovely, wasn't it? We're going to go back now. Lots more to come as we return to the Kodak Theatre for the continuing story of the 75th Academy Awards. Come on, what's not to love? It's show business. So we've now seen 10 awards, we've got 15 to go, and to accompany me through the next portion of the evening, I am delighted to welcome one of Britain's most successful and glamorous exports to Hollywood, Amanda Donohoe.
Very kind.
Evening, Amanda. Lovely to have you here.
Lovely to be here.
And with her, a journalist with the inside track on all things Oscar, the editor-in-chief of the excellent Movie Line magazine, Heidi Parker. Good evening, Heidi.
Good evening.
Thank you for coming. Well, what an evening it's been so far. How different do you think the build-up, though, has been to the Oscars this year? Let me start with you, Amanda.
Different in that we're in the middle of a war.
Yeah.
Yes. Very much more subdued occasion.
A lot of black clothes.
A lot of black clothes.
As we see this evening.
Yes.
Now, did you both choose your
Luckily.
gowns?
Yes, we were on the phone all day. I said, she wanted to go with pink. I said, no black.
No.
Did you ever doubt the ceremony would go ahead, though? There was some talk about maybe it being delayed or being postponed. Did you ever think that was a possibility?
Oh, yes, I really did think they were going to postpone the
Really?
ceremony.
Did you?
Yeah, I did, because it was just not good timing.
The show must go on. It's
yeah, I think it's
Hollywood.
really smart to make the show go
Yeah,
on, because
definitely.
a lot of people are looking for a distraction.
Definitely.
And it's, you have to give awards out for movies. You can't just ignore it or cast it aside. It is important to a degree. So it's good. Got to do it.
I know they were looking into the possibility of actually doing it at the Kodak Theatre later in the week. Apparently they couldn't get the Kodak Theatre because Scooby-Doo the musical is booked to start there tomorrow. So obviously, for that very important reason they couldn't postpone it.
Clearly
Yes.
a priority
If for no
Can't keep
other.
the dog
in
out.
the world scheme of things.
What do you make, without being too specific, because we don't have that long, but what do you make of the results so far? Are they kind of what you expected,
Yes,
what you'd
I
hoped
think
for?
they are. Yeah, yeah.
And Best Supporting Actress? was that it?
Fantastic. Good on you, Catherine.
You feeling slightly patriotic there?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Good on her.
Normally when she wins an award, Catherine, if she's excited, she becomes ever more Welsh. You get the accent coming out strong. She managed to sort of keep it in check there.
I think there's a lot to keep in check there. The funniest thing was as she was doing this number with Queen Latifah, is for the first time they both looked the same size as they came up there, and I was going, oh, poor Catherine.
And they both look lovely in different ways.
No, but that was lovely to see two, mamas up there doing
Shapely
it.
ladies.
Shapely, gorgeous ladies.
Heidi, let me ask you about the campaigning that goes on behind the scenes. Because I know there's been some controversy here about the campaigning for Gangs of New York.
Yes, there was a really big blunder that happened. What happened was Robert Weiss, who's a very respected director, he directed The Sound of Music and West Side Story, he claimed to have written something very favorable about Martin Scorsese and Gangs of New York. And the studio, Miramax, picked it up and ran it as an advertisement. And then, people found out that Robert Weiss didn't write it, but somebody in the marketing department at Miramax wrote it, but Robert Weiss gave his approval. And that sort of looks really dirty, because Miramax is passing Robert's words off as his, and they're not his.
And so will that colour the results, do you think, will it now work against them? Do you think people
No, because people already voted before this little
Yeah.
scandal happened.
So
But it doesn't make Miramax look very good, and Miramax has a reputation for doing anything to win, and this just supports it.
They campaign pretty hard, don't they?
They're pretty ruthless.
They've done pretty well this evening, of course. Chicago's already cleaned up somewhat. We'll see how they do with the other nominations Chicago has and their other films as we go back now live to the Kodak Theatre here in Hollywood for the Academy Awards, its 75th anniversary. There we go, a lovely musical interlude there. So that was a song from the movie Frida, I believe. Do you think Salma Hayek's got a chance in the Best Actress category?
I have
Amanda,
to
this year?
say, I know you didn't like the movie that much. However, I think it's perhaps more of a ladies' movie. I adored the movie. I thought the art direction was superb. I thought Salma Hayek was quite stunning. She was quite a revelation. And a lot of the people I know said, oh, we didn't know she could act. She's a gorgeous-looking lady, but she was pretty amazing in that movie.
So she changed a few minds?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Do you think she's in with a chance, Heidi?
Not a chance at all.
Really?
No way. I think it's nice that she's nominated. She'll be taken more seriously now. But I don't think people were very passionate about Frida. And I think it's either Nicole, who has a great resume, and I mean, I think she should get the award for Moulin Rouge, even though she was in the Hours last year, because she deserved it for that. Or Renee Zellweger. So it's just sort of nice that Salma's nominated, and she looks pretty in her dress, and it's great that she's there, but that's about it.
And
for
the
her.
only woman in history who could get away with a unibrow and still look stunning.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Right?
I have a list that I keep about it most times. For Frida, it's a Miramax. Is it a Miramax film, Frida?
Yes.
Yes.
It is.
Okay, so a lot of the pictures that we have and a lot of the performances that we're talking about are in these movies, which are kind of not big studio films as such. Maybe with the exception, I suppose, Lord of the Rings is a big popular movie, but most of these movies aren't those kind of blockbuster type pictures. Why is it? Why are we seeing the smaller independent films or movies coming from, you know, a smaller financial backers and not the big studio work being awarded tonight and being nominated?
Well, I think the studios are so concerned with making money and getting that blockbuster and just making the company happy, making the stockholders happy in the company, that they don't really think about the Oscars as much as they used to. Because if you win an Oscar, your film could go on to make another 30, 40 million, which really isn't that big of a deal anymore. So it's the smaller studios that like to have the prestige of winning an Oscar. And they can make an Oscar film for 20, 30 million, whereas the studios can't. You know, look what Road to Perdition was, a lot of money, a lot of big stars, and that it's only gotten a few nominations. And DreamWorks is very upset about it. It's very disappointing for them. So it's like, just, you know, go make another Made in Manhattan and make a lot of money. It's a lot more satisfying to the big
movies
studios.
that the big audience wants to go and see, of course. Now, we've just come from foreign language film, from sound and sound editing, not the most exciting categories, perhaps, of the evening. I know in your magazine, Movie Line, there were some thoughts as to categories that might zizz things up a bit. Can you...
Yes, well, we think that the Academy should have a little more fun and come up with categories like Best Kiss or Best Nude Scene or Best Chemistry. I mean, the chemistry is such a big part of movie going. You know, you want to see two people click, and it's just not acknowledged at all.
It's very hard to pin down, of course.
Yeah, I know, but yet it is deeply important to women, I think, especially.
Okay, now we're about to see a moment from the Hours, I believe, coming up when we go back to the Kodak Theatre. I think the smart money says it's probably between that and Chicago for Best Picture this year. Do you have an opinion on that, and do you have a preference for the two?
Well, I have a preference because my dear friend David Hare is nominated for The Hours, and I thought that the movie, which was one of the toughest subject matters to cover, I mean, how do you make a movie about depression? I thought it was an incredible film. I was riveted. So I'm rooting for David. I'm rooting for Stephen Daldry. How you can put these films in the same category anyway, it's so odd. The Pianist, Chicago.
But that's the nature of award ceremonies,
you know,
and always will
comedy,
be.
drama, musical. It's all mixed into one category. Really hard choice.
Not a lot of laughs in the Hours, though, were there?
Nor in The Pianist.
No, not in The Pianist, no. Well, there was one good joke. We had a big can of Spam that he was hiding from a Nazi, but, you know, maybe I wasn't meant to find that funny, I don't know. Do you think so far, though, Chicago does seem to be sweeping the balls? Do you think Chicago's going to go home with most of them tonight?
I think Chicago is definitely going to win, but there is a very slight chance that it could be stolen away from The Pianist, because the Academy likes to look important, especially during an awful time like wartime.
Indeed.
And they may want to say, listen, we like Chicago, it had a lot of great things to it. The Pianist is actually more important.
Is more relevant one.
Although,
I'm going to have to stop you there, Amanda, though, because we're going to go back now live to the Kodak Theatre for the Academy Awards. Sorry. Well, it's all getting very exciting out there. A documentary feature, Michael Moore picking up the award, going up there with all the other nominees in that category and making a speech which we could have predicted he was going to make something along those lines. Were you surprised at the reaction it got?
No, it sounded pretty, what do you think, pretty even, boos and hurrahs.
Started with cheers, then there was some boos, and then...
Although the comment after from Steve Martin got quite a round of applause, didn't it?
Yes, it did. I was very shocked that he made that speech because it was very pointed and it seemed to go on and on.
Well, the Michael Moore made the speech.
Yes, and he was warned not to do that. He was warned not to make any political
But
comments.
what's the point of warning Michael Moore
Yeah, what do you
not to
expect
do
he's gonna do?
anything? That's the joy of
I
Michael
know.
Moore.
Well, it's over now, right?
It is,
Well-
but he did make an incredibly powerful documentary, which I have to say moved me to tears and was very relevant.
Also, I think on a night when people are looking for someone to say something and
Yes.
they're curious whether people will, that's going to be the speech I think that will be quoted most tomorrow and will be
But if he
possibly
didn't
remembered.
say anything, wouldn't that have been odder, more odd?
It would
if
have
he had
been.
said nothing.
It would have been strange, and it was a
Yeah.
funny joke though by Steve Martin, you're right, and it kind of made everyone feel happy and comfortable again. Conrad Hall there, picking up the award posthumously for his work on Road to Perdition. He won a few years back for American Beauty as well, of course. Do you think there was a reaction there was a feeling because he's dead now and they'd lost him, that there was a kind of vote for that reason, that it was a desire to give the man approval on his last
Well, he was very, very popular in Hollywood. I mean, this guy had so many friends. Everyone genuinely liked him and considered him not just a part of Hollywood, but a real person. And I think that it was sort of a popularity vote, but he also did a magnificent job with Road to Perdition.
Yeah.
I mean, no film looked as good as that film did.
Yeah.
Not even Chicago. So
So
I think it was deserved on both ends.
Of course, he'd also won before, as I said, American Beauty, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and I remember his work most fondly from the Outer Limits TV series, which was tremendous. We've had some great emails, so thank you very much for these. People complaining about my impression of Sean Connery. Someone wondering why every other crowd shot seems to be of Martin Scorsese, from Justin. Are they obsessed with eyebrows, or is this a hint for the director nod? Do you think it shows that maybe they know that he's going to be getting the directors, or do you think it's just chance?
Well, I think it looks good so far, and you have to always judge by momentum, and people seem to be with Scorsese this time, which is weird because they never have before. And I think that the camera's always going to him because he's starting to look sort of like an Italian Woody Allen. And it's just, he's sort of like lost a lot of weight in the last few weeks, so he's sort of a good sight gag.
There was an adorable cartoon of him on the front of the Hollywood Reporter this week, which was just all eyebrows, and him going like this, just veiled through these lovely big eyebrows.
Well, let's hope
Brows are
he-
big this year, you know.
Brows are big.
Well, let's yeah, they are, aren't they? Well, let's hope that if he does win, he can see through the brows enough to get up on stage and pick up the award and maybe make a very lovely speech in the process. We'll find out. We're going back now. I think we're going to be finding out who's the film editor and also actor in a leading role, I believe. So we're really heading into the territory of the big ones right now, as well as original song. I've got my fingers crossed for you too. I don't know whether you have any preferences there.
Bono.
Bono? It's got to be Bono. So we're going back now live once again to the Kodak Theatre here in Hollywood for the Academy Awards. Some emotional moments there, some great names, some great faces. We're looking forward now to Best Actor. Who should win, who will win, do you think, Heidi?
I think Adrian Brody should win. I think he was incredible in The Pianist. But I'm not too sure about this year. What do you think?
Well, I adored The Pianist. I thought it was a magnificent film, beautifully shot. The only thing, and I thought Adrian was amazing, the only thing with a movie, and especially a part like that, is because the nature of the role is very passive. So, in fact, a lot of stuff happens to this character. He doesn't actually do very much. So, in that respect, maybe not Adrian, although it's a superb piece of work. I didn't like Gangs of New York, but I have to say I thought Dan Day-Lewis's performance was one of the few in the movie that I found sympathetic and I enjoyed immensely. So I don't know.
Well, everyone's saying that Daniel is going to win, but he's not one for campaigning, and he sort of hasn't been working as hard to get the vote. So who knows? He might just win off talent.
The fact that he's turned up is quite surprising, as he said that he wouldn't turn up if there was a war, and of course there is a war. At least it was last time I looked, and here he is. So maybe that means that he is kind of playing the game a bit more than he used to. Jack Nicholson, it's his 12th nomination. He's won 3 times before. Does that kind of statistic work against someone, do you think?
I think it does. I think that sometimes it's like, oh God, him again. But I mean, look at Tom Hanks won 2 years in a row. So you never know.
But often actors with that kind of amazing track records win for movies that you think, well, it wasn't so great. Why didn't he win for the movie where we all agreed that the performance was immaculate? So I don't know. But I don't think it works.
I hope he does win because he gives great speeches.
Yeah, he always,
He really goes over the top.
He's been hamming it up all night. Every time the camera's on him, he's doing something to get attention there. Michael Caine, of course, is nominated. I know he's extra keen to win. He's won Best Supporting Actor twice before. He got Best Supporting Actress to take home as one of his prizes. But I know, obviously, getting actor is what he's after there. Do you think he has a chance this year?
Not with this one, I don't think. But then I didn't like Cider House Rules, and so
It's
I
not
don't know.
this year because the movie is sort of anti-American in a way, and it brings up some questions people don't really want to think about. So I think he'll be shut out this year, which is a shame because he gives the best speeches, better than Jack's actually. He's very eloquent.
Although About Schmidt was stunning, have to say. Saw it last night.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I loved it as well.
Loved it.
Do you think it's significant that a lot of these movies, more so I think than in previous years, were released very near the deadline for movies to be considered for an Oscar? I mean, it seemed like they were saving them to the very last minute and then putting out the big movies. How significant is that, Heidi?
Well, they do that because the Academy voters are so old generally that they don't have a very good memory, and they will only remember the films that were released in the last couple of years.
I remember someone saying today on a show thing, oh, it's a pity about the Diane Lane. The movie came out too early in the year, and I thought, what are you talking about? Isn't this whole award thing supposed to cover the year's work?
But I suppose
Clearly not.
You can understand why. I mean, I see most of the movies that come out during the year, and I do forget whether they were this year, when it's 12 months ago, whether it was a year, 2 years before. You know,
They
it
used
does
to do
kind of
little
blur
mini
together.
re-releases around the time of the awards, didn't
It
they?
also it's good when they come out at the end of the year because then they seem more important and people are more in the mood for heavier dramas or heavier films. So it just fits a little better.
Now, coming up after we find out when we go back who the best actor is this year, they'll be giving out an award to Peter O'Toole.
Yeah.
Kind of an outstanding achievement award, which seems appropriate then. Initially, when this was announced, he appeared reluctant to come over and accept this award. How did that go down here, Heidi?
Didn't go down too well because it's such an honor to get a Lifetime Achievement Award that you would think anyone would want to come and pick it up. But he felt like he's not old, he's not over. Why should he get an achievement award now? He's too young. And then I think someone explained it to him and said, just take the damn thing and leave. So he's here, which is nice.
And if he hadn't come, do you think he would have found it hard to get more work if he was looking still, as we know he is?
I think it's not good not to come because so many people show up. Like Susan Sarandon doesn't really like her peers in Hollywood, and she doesn't like the Academy. And look, she's there.
Yeah, she's there,
And she
she's
held
smiling.
back, and she didn't say anything about
And
the war.
gave out an award. We're going to go back over now and see who's up next. So we're going back live to the Kodak Theatre.